live stream.
Yeah, it even came up live YouTube.
There we go. Hello and welcome to Live Now with Vinu and Chuck. It has been a hot moment for us to get this tech again. We were trying to go live on Facebook, but it did not work. So here we are on YouTube once again. So Chuck, we finally made it after several minutes of trying to look up everything. And yeah, I guess welcome back to Tech World again, right? Every Monday.
Every Monday, learning something new.
I'll be excited when we're back on Zynga TV next in a week or so, right?
I can't wait. It's long awaited, and I know that we're both like chomping at the bit. It's like, hey, how do we share more with the world at this point?
Right. And I'm also thinking this is that I have so much more respect for Eduardo at this point for like what he does to get us on all over the world live stream. So here we are today. And so Chuck, why don't you go ahead and start us off with what we're going to be talking about today?
Thank you so much. I know we are constantly trying to figure out what are some of the hottest topics and where people are really living right now. Are they spending a lot of time in their head, their heart? What's going on? And I love what we conspired to come up with tonight, and that is, who's in your ear? Like, who are you listening to? Who are the people that you are utilizing as resources to help you move further, farther, faster, and that you trust? Because I don't know about you, but, and I'll speak for myself, Vinu, the 12 voices I have going on in my head all simultaneously as a father, husband, friend, entrepreneur, co-worker, son, patriarch. And then it's like, what I found with everyone is everyone's got an opinion. And there are a lot of folks that are willing to go ahead and render an opinion very quickly without a whole lot of forethought. In fact, sometimes opinions before I've even had a chance to espouse what the question is. But what have you found? I mean, for me, it was like going, okay, is this really qualified information, or is it someone's just opinion or conjecture, or are they reacting to a moment, or are they trying to be a really good friend and back me up and then take my side? It's like, what constitutes great feed forward?
Right. You know, it's interesting because I go back to when I finally grew up and figured out what I want to do with my life. And I'm watching everybody doing what I feel like I want to do. I'm pulled to speak on stages. I'm pulled to coach. I'm pulled to do webinars. I'm like being pulled in all these directions, and it all sounds great. And in my mind, I'm able to do it all. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where to start. So of course, you know, we've learned from several mentors that, you know, don't reinvent the wheel. Go to someone who's doing it and figure it out. Like, ask them questions. And the issue was I was asking everyone questions, and I was getting advice from 20 different people who I believed was doing what I wanted to do because they had a facade that made me believe that they were doing what I want to do. I had no idea they were struggling too, by the way. Right. I had no idea that they were like starting artists, if you would. Yep. I had no idea that they didn't realize how to get on their own stages, that they were knocking on everyone's door too. I had no idea that they had started 5 books and never published one, you know, and I'm hearing this, like, you know, at the time I had one of those, I loved that phone, by the way. It was one of those ones that you flip up and you can like text real quick and then you close them back. Love that phone, but it was not definitely an iPhone at that time. You know, that was when Blackberries were out and Androids and iPhones were just coming out on the market. And I'm hearing like, if you want to make it, you got to be on an iPhone. So I'm like, oh gosh, now I got to get an iPhone, and iPhones were so expensive compared to these other phones when they first came out. And so I was like, okay, so I'm making notes. I gotta write a book. I gotta get an iPhone. Okay. And then I got to find contacts, and there was no Zoom. I think maybe Skype was just coming out then. So this video stuff wasn't working. Like, we weren't living in the Jetsons time, right? I always think of Jetsons when we're on Zoom.
Right.
I mean, life was different 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And I was going after who I thought was doing what I wanted to do and getting advice and doing it. And here's the gift in it. I failed forward many, many times.
Yes.
And to be able to differentiate whose advice am I following, and you said something, it's the quality, it's not the quantity. It's not quantifying the advice, because gosh knows I got tons of files of advice. Okay.
Well,
it's the quality. And it's really understanding. I think the first thing we need to look at is, who are we choosing to listen to? What's the chatter?
yes. And something just came to my heart when you said that. So I want to thank you, because you triggered this in me. It's the state that we're living in, because when we're resonating at a low energy state and we're asking people questions, because there's a measure of survival and not a thrive ideology and presence, here's what we get. We attract the people that are also struggling, even though the perception is that they may be in thrive or maybe living in an imposter syndrome momentarily, or the perception of, because here's the ticket. If someone is just the level above you, that's not further enough in front of you.
Yes.
Because they're just coming out of this, or if they're like 50 or 60% higher level than you are. So I go, let's look at it in frequencies. If Venu 7.0 is like 50 hertz, like just kicking it, killing it, confident, engagement with people on stage, writing content, inflow. But when we get into that modality of, I don't know what the first steps are, we drop it down to like 10% or,
Right.
10
Probably
hertz.
more.
Right. But the people that we're aspiring to, because I go, ooh, they're 20 to 25 hertz, or they're at 30 hertz. So I go, oh my gosh, they're killing it. They're killing it. I go, no. That's the perception. We're looking for ourselves in our own level of confidence at 50.
Right.
I go, why are you using such a low scale? Because if we're conservative, anything higher than that is a freaking home run. That's like one of the 7 wonders of the world at that point. So it's like, cool. Why is this so important? We're going to get the energy, information, and feedback at the level that we're showing up at. So we can be in growth, but not living in neediness.
Right.
And that is going to espouse, because people go, are you more likely to help someone who's asking you from a level of, hey, I love this, I'm in it, I know it, and I'm committed to it? Or, well, I don't know what to do. And so can you tell me, and what were the steps that you took? Well, they're like, what? You're not hungry enough yet.
Right. Right.
And the people who just went through it are going, you're going to have to struggle through it just like I went through it. Like, whoa. Okay.
But you know what? It goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago, Chuck, about the whole imposter syndrome, right? It's like we are looking at those people who, again, we think are at that 700 hertz that really are at that 25, because we don't know. They don't want us to know. Well, in the background, they're trying to figure out like, okay, who do I contact? How do I get it? Oh gosh, that's not done. And oh my gosh, what if I do it?
Competition? Are you going to be, crawling into their space? Because there's this thing where people, truly philanthropic people, like you look at the Dalai Lama, you look at Mother Teresa, you look at Nelson Mandela, they didn't ask for anything in return. They just gave. Why? Because they knew that when you elevate the frequency, who you attract around you are like-minded, like-hearted souls.
Right.
Now, but if you're not being like-hearted, it's going to be a short-lived relationship, because now there's no trust. You may see the same things, but you're going, ooh, I don't want competition. Why would I take all my hard work and just give it to somebody else who hasn't put any time in? And the difference is heart. If there's someone who has the drive and the passion, and you feel that energy, you're going to connect to someone else, because that's what that's your gravity, that's your center, that's your soul. But if you're just someone showing up and you're a taker, so this goes back to another conversation you and I've had, which is there's givers, takers, and matchers.
Right.
What's a matcher going to show up with? We're going to show up with heart, integrity, drive. They're going, how can I help support you as you're growing? I would love to learn. Mentor me. Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Right.
Yes.
And it's like, what's his name? Keith Ferrazzi talks about that co-elevation. And that's
Yep.
one of the reasons why I love that whole concept of we're going to grow together. It's not me, you, it's that matching. Like, how do we take what we're all doing, put it together and grow together? It's co-elevating together. It's matching. It's exactly that. Instead of just giving everything I got, not receiving anything, which also stops my flow. But again, who are we listening to? Where's the voice coming from of how to do it? And there's also a perception there's a right or wrong way. And that's another belief that I think that we should bust right there. That what you have done in your life to get on stages is a different walk that I've done to get on stages. And you and I both have been on some pretty big stages in our life. Different ways
Absolutely.
to do it. So whose way's right or wrong? Whose was easier, who wasn't? Was it luck? Was it the right time, the right place? Sometimes.
Yes.
And sometimes there's some strategy to it. Sometimes, and you learn from different people. I've learned from different people. We've learned from very similar people. So there's no right or wrong. And I feel most people, because I was there, I'm probably talking through my own pain that I had years ago, is that I was willing to listen to anybody who wanted to give me advice because I didn't have the confidence to figure it out, which was right or wrong. I just believed they're all doing it better than me. So I'm going to follow everyone's advice. And I put more time in doing nothing.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis, right? Because I got to do it right. And these people are telling me this is right and this is wrong. And I'm like going, it's kind of like Nike, just do it.
Yes.
So and to that point, there's a movie coming out about the creation of Nike and Michael Jordan with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. And I only bring this up for one reason. Michael Jordan was an unknown.
Yes, he was.
And all of a sudden, he's the GOAT now. He's one of the greatest of all time. Why do I go there? Because there is this opinion that because someone else has graced a stage or that they've done it to your point, that it's got to be the right way because they have a formula. And the truth is that was their formula, much to your point. We've learned content from the same people. And what we took away was likeness in certain industries and other part, depending on the situation and the occurrence and how we would approach a behavioral pattern or an interface or building rapport with someone. And the truth is, we would learn differences as well, which was really cool because now there's context and there's variety. And it's like, oh, I could see that. Or, wow, I so respect Vinu because I saw how she had this interaction with someone. Same techniques. But we know this as an NLP technique called the New Orleans flexibility drill, where you actually adopt someone else's identity. And it's like, wow, isn't that like the entire processing of imposter syndrome? Because
Right.
here's what happens. If you stand like a superhero, so you have that superwoman pose, or someone has a Superman pose and they have their hands on their hip and they're standing strong, and I go, that's momentary. In fact, it's actually a huge tell. Because when someone gets insecure, they find the need to posture.
Yeah.
Well, what if that was one of the ways of identifying, like if we had Jan Hargrave in the room and she was like going, oh, well, they're transderivational search where their eye patterns are moving, or notice how they hold their hands, and are they, ingratiating, are they inviting, are they open, are they closed? And there's all these different things. And not to get technical, but for us, we're like going, wow, shouldn't we trust the energy that we're feeling around people? Especially the feminine is so intuitive. And I go, are we really getting the best information that's accessible to us in that circumstance under those conditions?
Right.
Not judging it. I'm just asking the question because I go,
Well, so let's throw a monkey wrench into all of this.
Exactly.
because we're listening to all the different chatter. And so the chatter that we think builds us is also the chatter that destroys us.
Oh, without question.
And so, because this is one of my areas that I coach on each and every day, and I coach on it because of my journey, of what it took for me to stop listening to all the chatters, to stop hearing about, oh, you did that wrong. Oh, wait, you should do this. Oh, wait, you didn't do this. Oh, you're not doing it this way. Oh, you're behind the times. Creating that scarcity within me. And you've talked about this a lot on our show already. Like every episode, I think scarcity is like the key thing. And that's what it does. It creates that scarcity instead of the abundance of the knowledge that I already have inside of me. The forthright of my intuition of where is it leading me?
Yes.
I negate that. I take on all the chatter, and then I'm back to square one, wondering, where did I go wrong? So here's where we went wrong. And this is what me and Chuck are really here to talk about. Stop listening to the chatter.
Yes.
Know who your chatter comes from. I am very particular, and I think you are too, Chuck, who I allow coach me.
Absolutely.
Like I have a circle that I don't let a lot of people in. I know a lot of people. I'm friendly to a lot of people. I may like a lot of people, and doesn't mean that you're in my circle. Like I'm very particular of who is in my circle. And I'm also just as particular of who I allow coach me, because I have to have absolute certainty that my coach, number one, has my best interest. Number two, is not guiding me through their model of the world. They're understanding where I'm coming from with what I want, not what they want for me. I already have a mom for that.
Absolutely.
And still almost at 50, she still loves to tell me what she really wants me to do. And I have absolute certainty that what they tell me is the chatter I need to hear in that moment.
Yep. Without question. That permission and that vulnerability are two facets of it that go hand in hand. It's only when you're like-hearted, though, that you've given permission to someone else, because you know you're going to get the straight skinny. Good, bad, and different, they're going to be real and raw with you, which is great. There's another side too, which is expectations.
Yes.
And if we're being truthful with ourselves, we go, gosh, I saw that going a different way in the conversation. Why? Well, because there was an expectation. If there had been full appreciation, we would have been wide open, and not expecting anything other than real, raw truth and an opportunity to connect with self. Because this goes back to when we start talking about scarcity, let's talk about what happens when you consistently live in scarcity. It starts to marginalize you. And we know this for a fact. Anytime we start letting outside chatter become our consistent feed forward model in our own head, Jim Quick says this. He goes, the opinion and who you believe yourself to be is the number one governing force that will control how you filter everything. So if you say, I am broken, I am a procrastinator, I'm not skilled, I don't have the experience, I'm not old enough, I'm too old, I don't know enough, I'm not techie enough. And I go, that's all BS, belief systems. And the truth is, and this is where it gets painful and the compounding effect. See, Einstein said compounding was the seventh wonder of the world. And that's great when you're talking about money. Well, if you start talking about being at a deficit emotionally or in your spirituality or your fulfillment, it becomes a huge freaking issue, because now you lose access to any of the resources that go along with the judgment of that part of yourself. So if you say, I'm not smart enough, oh, guess what? It's not only that you're not smart enough, you don't have the ability to acquiesce and attain more knowledge, because you've already judged yourself that whatever you do unconsciously is not going to fuel you. It's not true. However, you are going to be who you believe you are.
Well, also your brain will never lie to you. So if
Absolutely.
it's not smart, the filter is going to be everything to prove to your brain you're not smart. If, I am a liar, my brain's going to show me everywhere, every possible thing I lied about, even stealing the cookie when I was 6. It was going to be like, see, you're
Yep.
a liar. You stole the cookie. You didn't admit to it, because it will not lie to you. And that's
Right.
why this is so impactful, what Chuck and I are here to tell you, because those words that we hear from other people, they also allow our brain to either create a beautiful garden or
Yes.
to allow weeds. And weeds suffocate the beautiful garden that we create. So again, it's not just the chatter from advice, it's what we are listening to, who we're surrounding ourselves with in the company, the dialogue that we have. It's the podcast we're listening to. It's what the memes that we're reading on Facebook. It's the reels we're watching, on Instagram. Social media now, oh my goodness, it will be portray is the word I'm trying to get out of my mouth, portray people to look like millionaires and billionaires, and they
Oh,
can't even, rub 2 quarters together to make their rent tomorrow. And you see it all the time. I have a question for you, Chuck. How many emails do you get a week that say, I saw your Instagram, I can grow it to 15 million in 6 months, or I saw you're a coach, would you like to make $10,000 in a week? I can
oh,
have your lead generation. And I'm looking at these people. So I'll go and research them just for giggles.
mhm.
And they're struggling. They struggled as a coach
Yes.
to get clients. So now you've changed your profession to go and help me get clients. You couldn't get clients, and you're saying that you're going to help me get clients.
Sure.
And I'm like, you haven't even researched me to know what I'm doing in my life. So what that tells me is you are not the chatter I want. I would never go to you to fill my brain on what I need to do next,
Right.
because you haven't even taken the time to research me, to see what I'm doing and where I'm at, and meet me where I'm at for me to even listen to the chatter. And again, this is where people follow. They get all these emails. They're like, oh, I'm a starving coach. I'm just starting out. Okay, this person guarantees I can make 10,000 in a month. Like, that's more than I made in 2 months. You know what? I'm going to spend 2 hours listening to them
Yes.
and then follow everything they say, and then spend 20 hours doing it and be at the same spot I was when I got that email.
So I have a question that I ask myself. Am I listening to someone who's going to preach, or are they going to teach?
Ooh, I like that.
So there are folks that will go in and they're preaching. They are, they're like, I'm in state, it's flowing through me. I said, something's flowing through you. And but it's interesting because it seems compelling, and we get motivated by the fact that they believe the stuff they're spewing. Good, bad, and different. And I'm like, I can respect someone who has that level of conviction. But when I walk away from the hype, am I left with insight? Am I left with better questions I'm asking myself? Am I left with, oh my gosh, I feel so much more fulfilled because I have clarity. It may not be what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And I go, that's someone who's teaching. Because if it imparts in you the opportunity for you to move forward, to have this ability to be able to get a clear understanding of self, I go, wow, that was great self-care. That was great engagement time. This person cares enough to give us actionable items, not just a bunch of hyperbole, not just a bunch of hypothetical strategy. It's like, no, this is where you start. This is what you do. So someone goes, okay, give me an example. Give me an example. I said, okay, great. If I'm coming to you, Vinu, and in fact, I'll use a different one. There was this guy, a financial planner, and they go, if you had to do it all over and you weren't worth millions, what would you do? He goes, I would do these 3 things in this order. He goes, I would take $25 out of my check if I'm 20 some odd years old, and I'd open a Ameritrade account. and I would put it into an EFT. And I would go ahead and start, investing in Vanguard or one of these types of funds. Why? Because they're a blending of accounts. He goes, that's money that'll compound and grow for you. Second thing I would do is I would join this particular company, because for as little as $10 to $25 a month, you could actually get into this real estate company and start diversifying your money. The third thing I was doing, open an Acorn account, and I would round up. And he goes, these are the 3 actionable items. Here's your game plan. Go do it. I go, that's freaking genius. Because it doesn't make a difference if you're a millionaire or billionaire. All that's going to change is where the comma is and the zeros are.
Right.
The strategy is the same, irregardless of your walk of life. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's really cool. He's not preaching. He's teaching.
I love that.
And he didn't have anything to gain from it other than sharing his life experience. And you and I talk about this all the time. The difference between coaching and strategizing, mentor strategizing, is that the only way you can be a mentor is if you've actually walked the talk, if you've actually lived the lifestyle, if you've actually done it. I don't need to learn how to play golf from someone who's never freaking swung a golf club.
Right.
Never been on a course, who's never, it's unfathomable to me that people go, oh, but I've watched videos.
It's exactly what our friend Joseph McClendon III says is, don't coach theory. Don't coach theory. You and I have been coaches for a long time. We probably can coach someone because it's psychology, right? It's the belief that they have that's stopping them. You and I both know this. It's coaching 101. We probably can coach anybody in any area. And you and I don't.
No.
We have a lane. We stay in our lane. Mine's parent and children, self-worth, self-esteem. That's it. That's it. I don't coach on money. I don't coach on business. I could. I've had great business coaches that the strategies have worked and I can share it with you. And I won't do it because I would be coaching theory because I don't know enough about it. I can change your mindset and the psychology to help get over that insecurity of scarcity. And yet that's probably as far as I could take you.
You bring up a huge point. Huge point. And that is, I don't go to my kindergarten teacher to teach me about college level calculus. Okay. They can teach me some life lessons about sharing, carrying, addition, subtraction, but that's pretty much where they stop. And so the difference is that the level of experience, if you have moved from being a very small business and where you were an employee, boy, it's really easy for another employee to teach you how to be an employee and follow orders. And here's the rules. And they're called managers. And that's what they do. But if you are looking to become a C-suite executive of your own industry, then we need to have people who've actually run businesses. And I go, so if I'm in a service business, like coaching or strategizing or servicing clients at that level, and I'm not in a brick and mortar installation where I'm actually selling you widgets or phones or computers or even online on Amazon and have an online store, I said that's a very different engagement. It's a completely different strategy as to how you acquire money, how you invest the money, what are the margins that you charge, how much aging do you have? It's like, and we could go down the rabbit hole. The difference is you go, I don't have any of that in the service industry. I provide a service and I bill, or I have a membership. And it's like, oh, okay. Are you both in business? Yes. Are they very different? Oh, heck yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it more basic. I know your son's a very accomplished soccer player, i.e. European football. Just want to be polite to the world. And so part of the challenge is, though, if I go, hey, American football, though, it's still football. I was like, no, I've never seen anyone. The only pads you have in soccer are shin guards.
Right.
You don't wear shoulder pads, a helmet, thigh pads. Oh, I'm like, for the love of Pete.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to like, who are you listening to and
why?
And why? Yeah, it is the why, because
It really is.
When we pick a coach, I want to make sure, first of all, if I had to do it all over again, I would have picked the coach I wanted to model.
Yes.
because I would have got the coaching from them. I would have been able to pick their brain to understand what they did to get as great as they did.
Yep.
And a matter of fact, that's what I did. Like, my coach is fabulous. And I hired her when I couldn't afford her. And I figured out a way to, because people will, like, if you want it bad enough, you're going to figure out a way.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that took my coaching to a whole nother level. And I ended up hiring her again just a couple years ago because.
This is important. Reasons and seasons.
Correct.
We need to implement, and this is the part, people, if you don't take away anything but this today, you don't need to be in a constant state of being bombarded with things and stuff and opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have actionable items, and you schedule your engagements and your action so you can put into practice. I can have someone show me how to lift weights. The weights are still there. If I don't lift them, I don't get the results. Pretty straightforward.
And so let's go into now, how do we test it? How do we know who we're taking advice from, what chatter we're hearing? How do we know that it's the right person for us? So here's my strategy that I would share with our listeners today. And that is the number one thing: whoever I'm taking advice from, I've researched them to see that they've taken their own advice and they have grown from it, that it's not a facade. It's not something they just want Facebook to think that they're so great. It's not the narcissistic syndrome that comes with, people have that in businesses. They want everybody to think they're this and they're that, and they're so amazing. And then when you look behind the curtains, you do a little peekaboo behind the curtains. They're not that at all. They're not. They're like trying to figure it out, trying to get one client. So know who you are listening to. I teach coaches how to be coaches.
Yep.
And every Friday I continue to tell them, be sure you know who you're listening to and what actions you need to take from what you heard to get you the results you want. So number one, know what results you want.
Right.
Do you want to be on stage? But it's not that you want to be on stage. What's the end result from being on stage? What's the end result of being a coach? What is it that you really, really want? Because being on stage, you think, because you see other people, it's going to get you what you want. And to be honest, you really don't even know what you want. You just want to be on stage for what? You and I were just talking about this the other day when we were talking about being on stage. And I said, Chuck, most people will tell me, like, this is how you sell from stage, and this is how you close a room. And I was like, but Chuck, I don't want to be on stage to sell. I don't want to be on stage to close a room. I want to be on stage because I have vital information that will help people and families and kids prosper and grow and enhance their bond together. That's why I want to be on stage.
Exactly.
And yet all the advice I got, and I've taken many, many speaking courses. I've been certified by some of the best speakers in the world, just like you have. And a lot of them are all about how you close a room. And I was like, I have a deficit. But and that's what I believed, because I listened to that chatter that I had a deficit because I can't close a room, so I can't get on a stage, which I found out was my old belief system.
Yep.
And I listened to it because the people I was listening to, they were salespeople. They were closing the room. That's what is their why to be on the stage. And so my why didn't match their why. So even though they've made the money and they were making it, they were the right people to go to, but yet the wrong people, because we didn't have the same why.
Well, first of all, you don't have the same why, you don't have the same purpose. The intention is completely different. And so let's be very clear. Venu Keller, I know you well. You could close any freaking room that you're in. And let me explain why. You create so much value and people feel your passion that when there's a call to action, all you would need to do is turn it over to someone else or hand it off. That is selling the room. They were sold before by the value that was created. They were closed. So let's be very clear. They were closed by someone else. Selling is the unbridled belief that you have and passion for the product that you're delivering. No one's more passionate than you are, bar none. So secondarily, if it's someone closing the room, they're an order taker. But the difference is they believe that closing someone, and I'm going to fall back on what I have espoused forever. No one likes to be sold. Everyone loves to buy. So when you're passively sharing and you're inviting people to the party, that is a very rudimentary way of saying selling someone. I believe the opposite. I believe that you're servicing people. And when you share, you care. That is who you are. And that's the motivation. So it feels a little smarmy when you're like, going, oh, but you can't close the room. And I'm like, okay. First of all, if you close the room, then no one else can come in.
Wait. I like that. If you close the room, no one else can come in. I like that.
So what do you try to do? Lock them in? No one likes to be engaged. So that's the other part is when we give people freedom of choice and we give them options and opportunity, but we create such an irresistible offer, the value's there. Now, why do I close the room? Then no one else can come in.
Wait. I like that. If you close the room, no one else can come in. I like that. I don't know.
So what do you try to do? Lock them in? Sorry. I was like, whoa, I'm hearing myself in stereo. So here's where the rubber meets the road. When you come back full circle to who you're listening to, it really is important to understand three factors. Number one, what's the environment that we're in? I'm not trying to sell someone in church. I am trying to help service and help elevate someone's awareness about their spirituality. Mm-hmm. Number two, if my motive and intention is to serve, then I'm going to be acutely aware of the energetic state of the people that are in that environment as well.
Right.
And number three, I'm going to trust that I have purpose within this space and that I belong there. And that's the reason why I'm participating in this environment. See, without those three factors, what we end up having is someone who's very strategic. And I'm not saying that strategy doesn't work, but I don't know if karmically your bank's going to be full. Number one, I would say ish. Number two, I would say that it puts us in a very awkward position because we may not walk away feeling as energetic and whole as we could have.
Right.
And number three, unless all the stars align, because as human beings, we are fallible and we will err and we will learn from those challenges.
So what we just demonstrated for you is a great way to understand the advice that I got and how I felt, depleted, that I wasn't good enough, that I shouldn't be on these stages. And what Chuck just demonstrated was why we have to be so clear of where we're getting the advice and how it is given to us and what we do with it.
Yes.
So again, that's how I check in. Like that was a great demonstration, Chuck. Thank you. And it's a great, but that's it, right? It's like where we hear the chatter, we take these classes, we think we're not doing it right. And for me, I'm that one that's going to always fire the gun. I'm not going to sit there and aim it for 10 years. I'm going to fire it. And then I may not get the target this time, but one day I will. And there's people out there that are so afraid to fire the gun because they don't know who to listen to. And that's why this talk that Chuck and I are giving to you tonight is very, very clear. Start living in the abundance of life and not the scarcity of it. And start checking in with who you're choosing to listen to. So that's how I check in to see where the advice that I'm listening to is for my truth. So do you have any other strategies you could share with our listeners to check, hey, what advice is right for me?
It's really simple. And that is, number one, what state are you in? You got to know where you're at. I don't go on a road trip and go, hey, give me instructions on how to get to this place. And it's like, well, where are you starting from? Oh, no. I go, well, that doesn't freaking help me. You're asking for advice. And it's like, okay, so we need to check in. Are you ready for this? Are you committed to it? Are you present? Are you listening? Because if you're on your freaking phone or you're like off in La La Land or you've got a book open and they're like, okay, you with me? Like, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed all that. How much of it? Well, how long you been talking? Well, okay, then you don't need this. In your heart, you're saying that you want it, but you don't need this. So
You're not
I'm not
present.
gonna waste my time. Well, here's the other part. Someone who is all in, who's like all in, is going to measure you that fast. They're going to go, do you need it? How much do you need it?
Mm.
Not how much you want it. How much do you need it? Like if this was air, what would you do to get it? If this was water, what would you do to get it? If this was food or shelter or love and connect, who would you be? How would you show up? Show me.
Right.
Because I don't want to waste my freaking time. I know what I committed to. And so if you're going to pick someone whose standards are lower than yours, that's not someone you want advice from. And they go, well, how would I know? How are they dressed? What do you mean? Do they have to be wearing Gucci or Versace? I didn't say that. I was like, God, are they wearing dirty jeans? Are they wearing, if you're showing up and this was an example. Someone said, well, Gary Vee doesn't dress up for anything. And I go, Gary Vee is amazing. And here's the truth. Gary Vee, you will see that his Converse are absolutely pristine. You will see that his jeans are, again, they're probably $300-400 pair of jeans. His t-shirts like, $70-80. I go, so the point in being is, it's not what he's wearing, it's how he shows up. He's not showing up like some vagabond. He's not showing up smelling not odoriferous. It's like this. He's
together. He's put together.
He's exercising hygiene. Is he very cash? Heck yeah.
And that's why, just speaking of Gary Vee, though, that's why people listen to him, because people can relate, because he's casual. He's not in a stuffy suit. He's not wearing Gucci. And, that guy makes so much money, and he shows up like us.
Yep.
Middle class, on the road. Let me talk to you. I'm touchable. Yep. Let's have a conversation. He's a conversationist.
Absolutely. Well, he's about, let's get raw and real. Like, let's just call it like we see it. Because right now, there's this whole concept of posturing. And that's what we see a lot of with imposter syndrome, is that it's like, gosh, if they took half the time to invest into self that they do in trying to be like someone else, mm-hmm. Oh my goodness gracious, how generous would life be? How gorgeous would life be? How much skill could they have acquired? I go, because the amount of energy you're spending trying to be like someone else is nuts. So one of the first principles of all of this is going back to the basics, and that is, are you worth it?
I love it.
Simple. Are you worth it? Because if you're not, why waste your time?
Right.
Why go through the hassle? Well, because I've got responsibilities. A lot of people have responsibilities. What's that got to do with it? Nothing. Said you have an opportunity and a privilege to live your life to the highest level. So are you worth it? Second, are you ready? And I can tell you the answer to that one. You're never going to be ready enough. Ever. To your point, I'd rather fire the gun. But Vinu, there are some people who won't even pick it up.
Exactly. And that's just it. It's, what are we scared of? Like, what is the fear? Are you going to let fear drive you, or are you going to let your goal drive you? Because they both can't drive you at the same time. They both can't be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are letting their fear drive them. And so they're just like on that treadmill. They're not going anywhere. They're running out of breath. They feel like they're putting effort into it. They feel like they're doing everything they're supposed to, but there's no progress. Like, it's a measurement tool, people. What's your measurement tool? And I've said this before on many of my shows that I've done, is know your measurement tool to know where your rewards are coming from. Is, if I am taking advice from someone, let's just go back to the whole stage thing, because, this conversation came up a month or two when you and I were chatting, and I still never let it stop me from getting on stages.
No.
Because I didn't let that fear take over me, that, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that.
And you didn't buy in to someone else's opinion as to what their perception of you or that part of you is. And that's
Right.
so important.
It is. And so it's my own measurement tool. And here's the deal. I also looked at who were they to tell me that, and what was their niche to see their measurement tool of how they were measuring me.
You
And
know,
I found out there was no alignment there. I was like, okay, not the chatter I need to hear, not my person.
well, no, and you can love the person, but
Absolutely.
if they've adopted a strategy that becomes selfish or incongruent, or it's a bait and switch, it's like going, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. So you got me and we agreed to something, and now you're no longer being forthright and fortuitous about this. But I want to go back to the fire the gun thing for a moment, because here's what I know. You miss 100% of the time if you don't pick up the gun.
Yep.
It's kind of like if you don't ask a question, the answer is always no. So you're never going to be able to. Oh, there's always someone trying to chime in.
So I just want to piggyback off this, because I just told this to the class I was teaching Friday. You miss every opportunity you don't go after.
Absolutely.
You got to go after the opportunity.
Well, it's so.
And stop being afraid of rejection. Like, we have to do a show. I think our next show is going to be on rejection, because we really need to take that out of people's life. We need to really reframe what rejection means, because honestly, Chuck, that is what I see most of the time, is that people are so afraid of rejection because then they're not good enough. So they should never have done it in the first place. Again, goes to the chatter we listen to.
I think we just need to do a mass hypnosis where no means wow. Like no, and rejection is possibility.
Right.
It's people like, oh, wait, y'all are psycho. Yes, we are a little bit crazy, but psycho in Japanese means a good thing. And so here's the cool part. When we start to acknowledge, and I love that, Vinu, that's brilliant. There's this whole premise of self where, why is it some people, they hear no and they get hungry? They get excited, they feel enticed. They're like, oh, okay. You said no. Do you know who you're dealing with? You just talk about like getting me like juiced up. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're one of those people. You have no freaking idea. And then there's the other people they hear no, and they're like going, right. Okay. Can I ask why? and they're so timid and shy about it. It's like, now, if someone heard no and they said, okay, I can appreciate that for now. Can you be specific as to what could have been better? Wait, so we're not asking them to point out what's negative. We're asking them to point out what could have been better in their opinion. And again, because we're asking for feed forward, not feedback.
I think that's the difference of people that are hungry to grow, that really want it. Like to your point earlier, is like, do you really want it?
Well, and
versus
do they value themselves? Because if you value yourself, that feed forward is going to strike you in a whole different way. You're like going, okay, I showed up. I gave it my all. I was 120% there. I gave more than what I thought I had. I'm actually proud of myself for stepping outside my comfort zone, because I was scared to like, I almost needed Depends. And it's like, okay, at some point in time, we need to relish it. And I'm like, oh, that's not ego. That's self-care.
Right.
That's saying, you know what? Atta girl, atta boy, proud of you. Why? Because, dude, the old Chuck or the prior Vinu might have been one of those people that just said, okay, well, I'll sit back and watch. I'll make myself really small. And there's only one thing that happens when you do that. You lose life. When you marginalize self, when you judge self, and I'm actually raising both of my legs under my desk at the same time. I'm doing a Russian, you just don't see it. That's how many times and the intensity level that I've judged myself over the years. The difference is that, are you able to come out the other side understanding that you're not broken, and that was another person's opinion of you really as valuable as what you felt and thought about yourself.
Right.
Because you're going to attract the level of energy that you're willing to tolerate from another human being. So if you're finding that you're around a bunch of negative Nancys or Debbie Downers, and you're looking for more inspiration and aspiration in your life, start getting around some people maybe that are exercising a higher standard of faith, a higher standard of self-care, a higher standard of integration and trust and openness, and get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, because you may find a whole lot of freedom and inspiration.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that also is the people you're listening to, are they taking you towards what you want or taking you away from what you want? And there's a fine line between giving you the real and raw, how it is, your blind spots, and being able to receive it. But it's the delivery of how they give that to you. They're not taking anything away from you. They're adding something to your life that's going to push you forward into what you want. And that's another way of really realizing, who do I choose to listen to? And I'm going to say this too. It's my favorite quote from Dr. Seuss is, those that matter don't mind, and those that mind don't matter.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. You brought up something and it triggered something in me in a positive way. And that is the difference between strategists and people that are just giving you opinion is they'll give you the roadmap, but they'll also give you, hey, when you get to this mile marker, there are no street lights, so it's kind of dark. So you may want to turn on your brights. Hey, it's a bumpy dirt road for about 2 miles. They've been doing construction for the last 6 months. So don't be alarmed if because you're driving in the dark that the road conditions change. They give you the 2 millimeter things to be aware of. They didn't say, oh, they just repaved that road. Oh, why? Because they don't know. They're going to tell you what they know, not what they think you need to know. They're going to tell you what they know. They're going to give you the facts now so that that road that might be less traveled is an opportunity for you.
I love it.
It's another way. But it takes some of the scarcity. It takes some of that groping around in the dark, the Helen Keller, syndrome out of it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So Chuck, we're about out of time, and thank you. Yeah, I know, right? So thank you guys for tuning in with Live Now with Vinu and Chuck. We are going to have one more week on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live. We're still trying to figure out technology, so bear with us. And in April, we will be back live on Zynga TV channels 250 and 251 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. We cannot wait to see you and visit you and get your comments and questions, because we love to hear them and answer them. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to support you guys in going further, faster in your life too, just by hearing the words that we have to say to you to guide you to be the better self. Chuck, any last words?
Yeah, we appreciate you all. And thank you for allowing us to share our life and our experiences, because we continue to grow with every single episode and with every single interaction with you all as well. And so we appreciate the opportunity to share, and we're all in this together. That's this beautiful thing called life. So thank you for allowing us to share so we can show how much we care. We appreciate you.